Something strange has happened to men over the last 20 years, and almost nobody talks about it honestly. We'll talk about masculinity, we'll talk about politics, we'll argue about feminism, but there's one thing sitting quietly in every man's pocket that people pretend isn't shaping anything. A screen. And not just a screen, but an endless stream of stimulation available instantly. See, I'm 32, which means that I grew up right on the edge of two different worlds. When I was a kid, the internet still made that horrible dial-up noise, and phones didn't really do much except call people and play Snake. If you wanted to see something sexual, you had to go looking for it. It wasn't just following you around in your pocket. There were barriers, and now there aren't. A 14-year-old boy today can access more explicit material in 10 minutes than previous generations could find in an entire lifetime. And we're acting like that didn't change anything, but it absolutely did. See, when I was younger, if you were interested in women, you had to actually go out into the real world. You had to talk to them. You had to deal with awkwardness, rejection, embarrassment, and you had to learn how to carry yourself. And that friction was part of growing up. But now something else exists. It's a shortcut. It's a private digital world where a man can experience intense sexual stimulation without ever leaving his room. No courage required, no rejection, no emotional risk, just a screen. And the brain responds to that in ways that people don't fully understand yet. Neuroscientists talk about dopamine a lot. Not the internet meme version of dopamine, but the real system in your brain that regulates motivation, novelty, reward. And when you encounter something exciting, dopamine rises. That's normal. It's what drives humans to explore and pursue and build things. But there's something unique about digital environments. They deliver infinite novelty. New video, new person, new scenario, over and over and over again. And your brain never settles because there's always something new. And novelty is one of the strongest triggers the reward system responds to. So if a young man grows up inside that environment, his brain adapts to it. Because the brain always adapts to whatever environment you repeatedly expose it to. Researchers looking at heavy consumption of online adult content have found something interesting. Some patterns in the brain's reward circuitry start to resemble the same patterns seen in other compulsive behaviours. The system that normally says, that's enough, that starts to get a bit quieter. And again, this isn't a moral argument, it's a biological one because the brain changes in response to repeated stimulation. It always has and it always will. Doctors started noticing another strange pattern about 15 years ago. Young men showing up with sexual performance issues that used to be almost unheard of at that age. Men in their 20s, healthy, fit, no medical issues, but struggling with intimacy. Now researchers are still debating the exact cause, but some believe constant exposure to highly stimulating digital environments can condition arousal toward artificial stimuli rather than real human interaction. Like, think about that for a moment. A brain that's been trained by a screen, now expected to respond in real life. Real life is slower, it's messier, it's less intense, and the brain notices the difference. But the deeper issue isn't even physical, it's psychological, because screens don't just stimulate the brain, they teach it. And for many boys today, their first exposure to sexuality doesn't come from experience, it comes from the internet. From performers acting out scenarios designed to capture attention, exaggerated reactions and scripted behaviour, everything designed for visual impact. Which means the first lessons a boy learns about intimacy are coming from something that was never meant to teach intimacy in the first place. It was just meant to hold attention. Now, those are two very, very different things. Now, here's where the conversation usually gets weird. Some people say digital adult content is completely harmless. Others say it's the root of every social problem. Both sides are missing the fucking point, because the real question is so much simpler. What does repeated exposure do to the way men experience desire? Because desire is not just physical, it's neurological, it's psychological, it's relational. And when you train desire in a digital environment long enough, that training carries over into real life. And there's another pattern that I've noticed in men over the years. I wouldn't say it's depression exactly, it's just a strange distance from their own sexuality. They still feel desire, but it's fragmented, it's detached. It's almost like the energy has been scattered across thousands of images instead of focused on one real person. And that's where screens change something subtle. They turn men into spectators instead of participants. Think about what's happening in that moment. A man sitting alone in a room watching other people's experience intimacy. His brain receives the reward, but he didn't actually do anything to create it. No courage needed, no pursuit, no connection, just observe. And see, if that pattern repeats long enough, the nervous system learns something. Watching is easier than living. Why risk rejection? Why approach a woman? Why navigate awkwardness or vulnerability? The screen is predictable, but real life isn't. And I think that's the quiet shift happening under the surface of modern masculinity. It's not weakness, it's not moral failure, it's conditioning. A generation of men raised in an environment where stimulation is abundant, but connection still requires effort. Where fantasy is instant, but real intimacy still demands courage. And courage is a fucking muscle. If you don't use it, it just fades. Now, honestly, this isn't about shame. Almost every man alive today has encountered this environment. This is just the reality of the situation. But the question isn't whether someone has been exposed to it. The question is awareness. What is it doing to your attention, your motivation, your ability to connect with someone in the real world? Your relationship with your own desire. Because once a man starts asking those questions and answers them honestly, something interesting begins to happen. He starts to reclaim control over his attention. And attention is one of the most valuable things a man possesses. Guard it fucking carefully. Because whatever you repeatedly give your attention to eventually starts shaping the man you become. Now, if this conversation resonates with you, I would love to hear your thoughts below, because the more openly men can talk about this shit, the harder it becomes for these patterns to quietly shape our lives without us noticing.